Happy Tuesday, friends. Social media makeover, joined by my friend Lucas O'Keefe, one of my faves. How are you? Happy Tuesday.
I'm doing great. We just had a holiday yesterday here in Canada,
You
so I'm
did.
I'm I'm nice and refreshed. I'm in that period of not knowing what day of the week it is, so you just reminded me it was a Tuesday. I'm here for the show. I didn't miss it, so I can't complain.
I love that. You know what's funny? I have on my computer, it shows the date, it shows the specific like second, so I arrive on time, but it also shows the date. So the only way that I know it's Tuesday is by glancing up when you see my shifty eyes. That's how. Friends in the
Very nice.
chat, we want to welcome you. We have 2 episodes of Social Media Makeover left before we take a little break. And Lucas and I thought, wow, we've covered a lot of ground with this show. 10 episodes so far. This is the second last one, and then our final one will be next week. And we thought to do something creative, since we've covered so much content, we're using our final 2 episodes almost as like working sessions, starting to combine all of the things that we've talked about and learned. If you're new to the show, make sure you know that the show builds on itself. You don't necessarily have to go and watch the previous episodes, hang out this right now, and then go back and watch some of those previous episodes, like on Instagram Live, on stories, on endless content ideas. We've covered so much ground. And I said to Lucas, today, Lucas, I am your client because I have these like mental blocks of posting on Instagram when it comes to specifically Instagram thumbnails. And Lucas, are you up for the challenge to help me today? Because I'm your client.
I am. You've helped me a ton, so it's about time I pay it back a little bit. And
Oh, that's kind.
why don't we talk about those mental blocks? I would love to hear
Sure.
what has been getting in the way of you sharing content more regularly, because I know we've had this conversation a fair bit, and
Yeah.
I'm sure the audience hearing this is thinking, yeah, I've had some obstacles get in the way of me posting. We all want to be more consistent. Sometimes we have the content, but just not the
Yeah.
strategy to share it and to put it out there. So, what are the mental blocks you're experiencing right now?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. And even before I describe those, I might mention what I have on my screen, which is our Instagram thumbnail template. This
Very
is
nice.
very simple, but so incredibly useful. I will answer your question, Lucas. I'm just, just
Setting the scene, setting the
setting the
scene.
scene and buying myself a few extra minutes to think about the answer. So the second page on this template is sized for 18 or 1080 rather by 1920, so vertical. But then these little blocks, these little shapes in Express are meant to remind you what will get cropped out from the thumbnail view on feed. Okay, so it's like really simple, but all you would have to do is just pop that thumbnail. You might even consider building your thumbnails in one place, which you could use for this template linked in the description.
Yep.
It's going to remind you, of what's going to be visible on that profile. And actually, Lucas, that's my answer, which I'll pull up my profile in a second. We also included some best practices for Instagram thumbnails. This is just something to keep an eye on every time you're working on these. You might even ask, well, Phil and Lucas, what is an Instagram thumbnail? And to
Yeah.
answer that, I'll hop over actually to my Instagram profile. And so now, Lucas, I'll answer your question. I, for a long time, felt inspired by the structure that I maintained for my Instagram content, like these little, I would make these in Express. It's like a little 90% opacity with a little sentence that summarized what
Yep.
the reel was all about. And then I would try to get creative and do little checklists. And then I'd have photos. And as soon as this sounds so silly, but as soon as Instagram changed from square to portrait, I had a meltdown and I thought, oh my God, it looks like such a disaster. But like maybe this is a time now that I change my visual brain. You can see me starting to experiment here. But I just kind of feel a little lost and uninspired. And that's why I haven't been posting. I don't know if that's a good answer.
No, that is a good answer. And we should also highlight too, I know we're on the Instagram desktop version right now,
We
which
are.
hasn't like fully changed things, but if you want to know, maybe I can even hold let me get your profile right here on my phone. But to
Okay.
know what Phil's talking about, and this was like at the beginning of this show, Instagram
It
has
was.
really, oh no, it is updated on Instagram desktop. It is. It's
Yeah.
all super vertical. and super rectangular. I think of, I found you have your post. If you scroll down, go
Yeah.
back to the top
Like, look
and
at
right
this
there,
gives me
go down a
straight
little
up
bit.
anxiety. Look
Yeah,
at how
go
that
down a little bit to
squares.
that one.
Okay.
The 90, is it the like the black bars you're talking about right here on that
Yeah,
center
it gives
post?
me heartburn. It like creates huge amounts of stress. I can't even speak properly. But like, yeah, and it's so silly. But I think it's just one little thing that stopped me in my tracks. And then I get so busy with how much other content I create for priority platforms for me, which would be YouTube, that I just go, oh, not today, Satan, not today. And that's what I need to get over.
Fair.
That's what
Well,
I need to get over.
I will start by saying that even what you call a disaster on your feed is still more united and organized than 95% of the Instagram feeds on here. I met you on Instagram because you had this super nicely tied together cohesive grid, and I said, I love the overall. Do you remember this conversation in like
I
20
do.
March 2020? I was like, this guy has the nicest. I think you were using browns and whatnot in your brand colors at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
like cream and brown colors. And I was like, this is the nicest grid I've ever seen. Please tell me how you did it. I also love your content, and we
Adobe
became friends
Express,
that
friends.
way.
Adobe Express is how I did it. I just need a little bit of rerouting back on the map. Like I want to bring this back too, which was my text only carousel. Friends, if
Yes.
you find yourself not as if I'm in the position to give advice right now on consistency, I will. We'll get back to it. But some of my best performing content, which I create in Express, are just these text only carousels. I give myself 10, 15 minutes max to just create something and throw it up. No images, no fuss, no muss. When you've got your brand kit ready and available and accessible right here, like that's actually my most used template in Express. So I need to bring it back today. Yeah, that's my mental block. So I don't know where you think I should start.
So I would start by asking you, what are your three favorite types of content to share? So like no matter what we talk about today, what posts are you going to be sharing moving forward? What are three constant pillars that you are going to have on your grid no matter what?
I know the answer. And actually, like, I don't think about these things, and it's such an obvious question. But friends in the chat, by the way, I'm saying hello to you. Thanks for being here. Answer this question along with us. What are, let's say, roughly the three types of things that you are guaranteed to post? So, Lucas, first would be AI tools. I do
Okay.
many brand deals on YouTube for dedicated videos. So I'm always, well, let me pull up my feed while I answer this
Yeah,
question.
I
I
have your
am,
feed up and I'm seeing so many like it's funny because I love how your feed already looks, but you're right. We want to tie it together a little bit more and it'd be great to
yeah,
see some examples of these types of content. So AI tools.
Yeah, I'm gonna filter over by reels. I typically do like a reel, even though it's not my focus. I'm not like a reels creator, but if I'm going to the effort of making a dedicated YouTube video, I might as well create a quick little short form video to promote it on YouTube or on Instagram as well. So that's like and then sometimes brands will use these as ads. So anytime that you
Yes.
see like a humongous spike in views, I'd love to take credit for that. But typically the brands are hiring me and you running that as an ad, which I love. I love when that happens. But I try a lot of AI tools and recommend them. And so that's a guaranteed. The second one that I would love to get back into are my text only posts.
Definitely.
Okay. Like some of my best performing content sadly doesn't even have my face in it. It is literally, but I didn't join Instagram to become a model. I joined Instagram or post actively on Instagram and have grown a smaller audience compared to other people like you because of my brain, because of my ideas, the ways in which I'm able to share quick little tips that people save, find valuable, share, take action on. All of that makes me happy. So the second kind of content that I'll always create, and actually I'd recommend viewer that you think about this, think about what is like the easiest thing that you can create that you're not going to have blocks. And for me, it's a text only carousel and they perform exceptionally well.
they also look great, right? Like I can see right away what it's about. It is obviously great to have so many like images and video clips in your grid to show that you're a human and who you are. But I really like how like the reminder really pops from what I'm seeing there, or the hook that you're able to show with a text only carousel is going to
Hmm.
be much more visible than a reel where someone probably has to watch it to get the main idea of what it's about. So definitely
I
that.
also I don't like making reels. I don't like making them. I really don't like making them. So that's why I
Same.
didn't I prefer text. I prefer, honestly, and then so the third one would be anything that's personality driven. Like that was taken on an iPhone. It's not a fancy photo. It's me being silly. Um, and I think it was a ChatGPT. Remember when that trend when you asked ChatGPT to roast your Instagram feed?
I do. I remember.
That's
Yeah,
so that when I got roasted, it said throw in some candid moments or less perfect shots to remind people there's an actual human behind that brand. It's actually like a really good reminder. And
that
so
is
I
awesome.
put that up, and that for me, 500 more than 500 likes, and who knows, the other stats. That was huge. And so like be silly, have fun, show your face, even if it's a static image. I sometimes get paralyzed by feeling the need for everything to be perfect, but we're
It
working through
shows
it
that
today.
people want a break from information overload. Yeah, the
Yes.
text carousels are great. That's my favorite type of content too. Yes, reels are a great way to communicate and show something, especially you and I do a lot of like tutorials with our reels. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, Instagram started as a way to just show photos of your life to your friends and family, now our
Yep.
colleagues and our network and our audience. So it's expanded a bit, but we never get away from that pattern or that behavior of people liking to do just that. So it's a great way to mix those in. And I love how you've done it. You're lucky you travel quite a bit and you're able to incorporate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be the
Um,
third type. It would be like
yeah.
the silly fill, personality fill, and or travel photo.
So when I'm doing this, I try it'd be nice and easy to plan things if the ratios were perfect. But
Yeah.
I do always like to have like one leading heavy type of content that's going to do the heavy lifting the most part.
Okay.
So for what I'm hearing from you and seeing, I would think that would probably be because you want to get back to consistency. What's the way you said you like sharing the most? And that's with written word. So I would think
Yeah.
these text carousels are probably going to be the main way you're going to show up. So maybe you would do 3 posts of that, 1 post that's a reel. Many of your reels, like mine, are also brand partnerships. So it's not like
Hmm.
we're just posting brand partnerships every single post. And then one other post. So 311. I've done 411 before, but the
Let's
last
actually
post
look
would
at
be,
yours while you're answering
yeah,
this.
yeah, let's do it. Would be mixing in a personal piece of content. And if we're looking at mine, you can see it's very similar. I have my
Yeah.
heavy hitting carousels, how to plan an Instagram content strategy, how to get discovered on Instagram, all the ones that really get me a lot of value. Many of my um, many of my reels are brand partnerships or new updates that Instagram is just launching that I want to share. That's really the only 2 ways I will share reels. And then I mix in a third type, which is my little checklists and my
Yeah.
infographics. But having 3 types to rotate through really is what I would recommend. It's the most manageable. It helps your audience know what to expect from you. I might mix in something different every once in a while, like these like signposts that I do. I have a lot of fun with these using them. Like my only experience with Adobe Illustrator, I should mention, is using the mockup tool to like like to merge my like font onto this blank sign so it looks like it's my handwriting, even though everybody knows it's
Yeah.
not. But that's like an occasional one I might mix in, or a meme is an occasional one I might mix in. Other than that, you can very clearly see I have infographics, carousels, and reels, and we have me at a very a good point right here. So it's good. I've been on my good behavior. I have my checkerboard going on, which
Yeah.
when we
We're like
talk about
opposite.
yours,
You used to like
yeah,
not worry about it as much, and now you're following this great structure. And I
let's
used to follow it to a T. Um, I used to follow it to a T, and then the dimensions changed, and I had a
yeah.
midlife crisis.
I want to go like super far. Yeah, there's been times where I haven't, right? Like, and then
Yeah.
I understand your like mental block because when I was like at this point where I'm just like, okay, like five of these are brand partnerships, um, six out of nine of them are reels. I didn't like how my grid was starting to look, and it made me almost afraid to start posting content again, right? Even here, it was getting very messy. I went through a messy period of content that I just got out and didn't overthink too much. These were almost like too similar. So I get it. I get it. I am much happier now with my very simple checkerboard, which is going basically a graphic, whether that's a carousel or a infographic, and then me. So it's a real cover. Infographic, me, real cover.
I
Infographic,
almost
me,
wonder if we
photo.
should hop into your Adobe Express and maybe you pull up a recent thumbnail that you've designed and you just generally talk through the decisions you make as you design it, and then I'll actually design one based on those tips. Would that work?
Yeah, I actually have tons of mine. Um, let me grab a thumbnail that I would use, and then we'll bring
Yeah,
it over into our template because we can work on the same file together, and we can make
perfect.
we'll each make a thumbnail.
I love
Do you
that
want me to go
idea.
with a reel? I'll go with a reel.
You get to choose. You get to
Okay.
choose because I kind of just want an excuse for you to talk through some of your best practices. Friends, I also haven't mentioned this yet, but the beauty of Instagram thumbnails is that they can be changed after the fact. And so
Yes.
that was why I wanted to like talk about this for a little bit longer because if you're stressed about the way things look, like me, and you've given up, you don't have to. You can easily use Adobe Express to create a thumbnail in the optimal size and then go back to your old post and update it. It's magical.
So it's funny you mentioned that because the project I've brought up here is literally I renamed it so it makes sense. It's literally this whole project exists because it's my real covers. There's a reason why if you look in the bottom corner, I know we're blocking it, but there's 25 pages in this project because
Wow.
it's wherever I just go. I usually will actually do this on the Adobe Express app. Oh, there we go. There's all my pages down there in the bottom right. Usually I will work in this project from the Adobe Express app because what I'll do is as you're seeing on screen and as you can very easily see on my profile, here's the one we're actually working with right here, and we can see where it's getting cut off and where we want to make sure everything is fitting. I like to keep it simple. Oop, that's you. I like to keep it simple. And as I'm recording the reel, often right before I record the reel, the most important step for me to make sure I get a good thumbnail is I take this little pointing at the screen picture. And it could be
Mm,
me pointing, it can be holding out my hand like a nice silver platter. Whatever I'm doing, there's going to be text that's going to go somewhere right here. The reason I like to do this, and I think this is why it's awesome that we're doing this together because we both have two very different ways of creating our Reels covers, our Reels thumbnails,
yeah.
is I like this at least to look more polished than me trying to find like a still frame in the reel that is going to act as
Yes.
my cover. Because we've all done that before where I think here's one where I've tried to find it. Like this was a brand partnership that I was able to find like an okay spot. Same with this. Here's an even better example. New Instagram grid feature. I know I'm blocking it, so I'll move that out of the way. But you can very clear, I think at least, you can very clearly see. Let me zoom right in. I just got a haircut that day too. You can very clearly you can see like the difference when it's a thumbnail that I just captured from the reel and didn't put
Yeah.
in any work to design. Like my
And
eyes are
that's just
half
an extra
closed.
step you add when you're
Yeah,
recording. So you record your video and then you do your pose, right?
because I would much rather have one that looks like this, which is it's a higher quality picture because it's from my camera, like right here, this, right? So wherever I can, I try to do that. Stuff like this, it bothers me. Like I'm mid
Mm.
sentence, you can very clearly see that. It's like peeking out at the bottom here. You can see like the subtext. So that's why I like to just my quick way to do it, take that snapshot, put it into Adobe Express. I have this file always going. And then I like to just add my text, whatever the topic's going to be. I
Hmm.
don't have I didn't check our best practices, but I'm sure we could always add in some things to our best practices, like this visual cue of me pointing right here on the screen. I'm
Mm.
directing the eye. I'm sure I've done this so many times that my hand is well placed, but I wouldn't want my finger to be pointing up here, right in the top. I wouldn't want my finger to be too low where I won't even be able to fit anything in for the title. So there's a reason why I try to keep it around neck to chin level. I'm getting overly scientific, which I don't need to be doing right now, to have it all fit in because as we know as we'll get to with our template, I want to make sure that the section being shown, and I'll even get a little shape so we can just very quickly generalize this. I want to make sure that of the part of the thumbnail that's going to be shown up, oh, look, I even have your colors here.
I'm
I
so
want to make
impressed. And
sure,
as you're talking about this, I'm actually adding a page to our template, which I'll show once you're done.
awesome. I want to make sure that like this is where the real like meat and potatoes are. It's okay that my hair's sticking out a little bit because Instagram will let us adjust, but I wouldn't want to move this box too high and then all of a sudden like my arm's no longer in it. Or if I'm moving it too low and then it's cutting off half my forehead. So it's important to do stuff like this. It does go a long way. You can always like drop the opacity to, like we've pointed out like with text to really simply see. But all I'm doing is I have my text here. I'm going to go ahead. Let's make it white. Let's add an outline, which is super easy to do in Adobe Express. And then that outline is really going to make it much more visible no matter what the background is. You do want to make sure you're doing that. This is probably one of the simplest design tips, but one I use every single day that I was ever taught is that white font with a black outline makes pretty much anything visible in any situation. So that's what I like to do. And I put my title here. Doesn't have to be exactly what the post is about. I actually want to keep it short and simple. This post, what did I go with? I went with how I grew my Instagram audience. I think I could do better than that. 3 steps to grow your Instagram. Play around with it. Let's drop the lines a little bit. And something simple like that is typically what I like to go for. I might throw like an icon up top where I'm going to make
Mm.
sure that there's like, a little like graph or a chart. Let's see what we got. There we go. Something like that I might throw in, put that right there because I have this nice black wallpaper, which is not planned, but does make it very easy for me to incorporate icons and shapes. I might put
Don't you
something like
love
that.
those happy accidents? You're like, oh, that worked perfectly.
I do. And that would be my go-to reel cover, which, as you can see on my profile, it works pretty well for me. It ties everything
It really
together.
does.
I'm able to draw upon it. I use a thicker font and a bit more of a shadow when I'm doing it myself. But that is something I can very quickly do. And like I said, I actually do these, I most often do these from my phone with Adobe Express because then I can just download it right to my phone. And as I'm uploading the reel to Instagram from my phone, I already have it right in my camera roll.
Genius, genius. Don't overthink it, which I'm the president of overthinking. I think that's the branding part of me, you know? I'm always like, oh my gosh, it needs to look picture perfect, but that's so 1994. Nowadays, actually, when things don't look perfect, that's when the content typically performs best.
That especially on social media, right? On Instagram. I find
Yep.
YouTube can be much more polished, and YouTube is
Yep.
obviously something you work really well with. So I think that also
Yeah.
speaks to it too. But yeah, Instagram you can get away with it a little bit more, which is nice.
I kind of need to shake those yeah, those like YouTube habits and remember
Yeah.
that Instagram operates differently. We'll go ahead back to my screen and I want to just talk through some of the updates I made to our remixable template. In fact, I'm going to push those templates or sorry, those updates live through to our link that again is shared in the description below. But I just added some additional pages, Lucas, as you were talking. Just waiting here for a
I love how
second
you do.
so people
I
will.
already see it. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I can show on
you
my
already see
screen
it.
while
Good,
you're making that
good.
template. Oh,
If
there we
you're,
go. It's done.
yeah, great. So, okay, so sections to avoid, we've highlighted with this shape, top and bottom. Um, to Lucas's point, like it's fine if you have stuff up there, but don't put anything important. The pointing, if you're going to point, Make sure it's not like up here or down here because it's just not going to be visible on the feed. And then I added a second page where if you would want to drag in an image here, this is one that I literally took right before to promote our show. So
Oh
there,
yes, I saw that
that's
story. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good way to test it. I can see top and bottom. So all I did was pop in the image and then go set background. You can do this on mobile equally. That's
Yep.
going to tell me what, like, it's going to show me, okay, there's no important information there. If I want to adjust the opacity here, I could just to kind of see um, what's going to get shown. And I am actually generally happy with that. I think that actually looks really good. I'll leave that opacity high for now. So you've got, there we go. Look at you duplicating
I'm
it.
showing how easy it is for people
I
to make their own
know.
copies. All I did was I duplicated your page while you were doing that, and I put
Yeah.
in
Genius.
like your thumbnails can all live in this document is kind of what we're getting at, and it keeps it all in one place. Doesn't crowd up your project. It keeps it all very focused, and this can be where you work on thumbnails.
Like, and just have everything in one place and be able to just centralize this, repurpose it. So, okay, now I'm digging this. This was the page with the best practices, and then I added another page. Now I'm doing a peace sign because I had two Adobe Live shows back to back, so it was a double header. Get it? Two. But normally, I think it would make sense to probably just point and just make sure that your point region is in that middle area, and then think about what you could add. I'm actually getting some ideas here. I had some mock-ups of things, but I'm actually gonna go to my stuff. And Lucas, I just had an idea, something that I'm excited about. Here's a YouTube video that I've been working on. We haven't talked much about YouTube because our show is kind of focused around Instagram. But when I make graphics for my YouTube videos, I do it all in Adobe Express. Text, on brand graphics. I'll take a screenshot of my YouTube video and then just so I can see how it's going to look. And then the editor has a reference and I'll duplicate it, delete the background. The size of this is double the size. So it's 4K. So instead of being 1920 by 1080, it's 3840 by 2159. And that's 4K. And
Oh,
so
okay.
very exciting. Yeah, that's a good
Is
little
that is
tip
that
if you
so it
create.
has the highest quality when you export it or when you
Yes.
use it? Yes.
Yes. And when you upload your YouTube video, it will show a little 4K beside it, and that indicates highest quality. And like Lucas, with like brand deals and stuff, right? We've talked about that. Like, I can't control virality. I can't control how many people are going to see the YouTube video, but I can control making a video that's high quality. That's like
Yeah.
within my control. And so I try to really do all of the things that I can to make sure that the video looks and sounds great. So I brought this project up. I'm not trying to take us or derail us here, but what I love so much is that when you're building your design assets in Adobe Express, you can leverage this for everything. This little one right here, this little square image is for my ManyChat automation. So when I have people click, I'll send you the link to sign up. There's a spot in ManyChat where you can upload an image, and that just gives it a little more personalization. All I
Right.
do is just because in Express you can have pages that are the same size, insert new page, and then I can just totally resize that depending on what I'm needing. What I'm going to do right now is copy this graphic over from my YouTube video. And then what we could also do if I go to, what am I going to do? I'm going to insert a new page. I'm going to pop my image there and I'm going to copy this over and set it as the background. So one other thing I could do is, let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to crop this as a circle. Flowdesk is the platform I use for my email marketing. Big fan. And maybe I could come up with a design
I
that's
like this
on
already.
brand. You
Yep.
like it? Do you
I do.
approve? Okay,
It's
good.
looking great. Like, and again, it shows that this is a perfect mixture of personal, it's fun. You took this as a selfie at your computer desk moments
Yeah.
before we went on this. And because you're adding these more professional elements, the logo you have, and you're combining it all, it ties everything together, which I think is right at home for social media. That mixture of a little bit more casual combined with, strategy that does make it look nice and branded and professional. I think that's exactly what people should be aiming for with their grid and with their overall content strategy.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm on the same page. I'm going back here. One of the, I love this little template that I used to do. It would be a sentence with the little brand logo in it. So I might even try to bring this back. So what am I going to do? I'm going to copy some text over that is currently in our social media makeover brand, but I'm going to just quickly change this to my personal brand. Luckily, I've got my brand set up in Adobe Express. So all I have to do is click over here. I got a lot of brands. I got to find my name, which is in alphabetical order. There we go. And choose my brand font, which is that one. Might even go bold, which you usually recommend. And then obviously I'm not going to be purple, but I can go ahead
I am liking
and
this color combo though, this like purple and neon. It is very nice
it's
if you ever
fun, right?
want to
It,
reconsider.
right? I know. I don't think this lime green will ever officially be in my color palette. It's a little bright for me. But I have in more recent years tried to like bring more color into my brand. It used to be very beige and dark, but I realized after a while that that didn't actually represent my personality. And
Fair.
so I rebranded. Pardon me.
It
Water
really is
break.
good to have something that matches your personality. I think we've all been there before where
Right.
like we start with colors we like, but maybe that doesn't communicate how we want to be seen by audiences, by customers. And it also highlights that it's okay. We've both done this a lot. It's okay to
Yeah.
change and re-envision your brand palette, your branding. We've both done that and we've had some good results with it.
You're so right. You're so right that it's like kind of like a fluid process. And that is exactly what happened. I arrived at this moment where I thought, "Oh my God, my brand looks like the kind of brand that I like for like a home interior, but it's not the kind of brand that actually represents me as a personality." And so that's
Right.
why I needed to change it. I tried to find this kind of middle ground. Really cool features here, by the way. I'm playing with text effects right now. Um, Lucas often talks about adding a drop shadow so the text is legible. Phil Pallen's not really a drop shadow guy. I like it for your stuff. I don't like it for mine. I'm more of like a highlighter background or some kind of block text like this. Point being, you have so many options depending on what you want. Also, unique to Adobe Express is this cutout effect. Wouldn't work in
Yes,
this
I
case
love this one.
because wouldn't work in this case because the background is too busy to actually see the text, but um, it would work really well. Just know that it's here. Cutout text is going to just remove the font color and make it see-through. I think it's just so super cool. So super cool. Okay. What do we think so far? Let me go in a little closer. I'm trying to think like if I was to go favorite, spelled the American way. Sorry, Lucas.
Don't worry. I'm used to it from this online world.
Favorite email marketing platform. Kind of want to bring back my little, I don't know yet. Point is, you get to play and experiment. This is what I need to give myself permission to do. I'm going to delete these blocks for now because they're stressing me out. Um,
It's also that highlights something. It's nice to actually have the blocks, but then after the fact, you can re-add them, or like
yeah.
we said, just put it back into that template to then just do like a final check. But yeah, sometimes you might not like having the blocks above and below while you're designing, and you want to just have a bit more freedom.
Mhm. So I might just like have fun. You don't have like an absolute ton of space. So if I was not going to do text, I would probably keep the logo big. I might even hop into shapes under elements here. One of my favorite types of shapes are lines and arrows. I love this one. This is
Ooh.
my always my go-to.
I have
You're
used that.
Yeah, I use it religiously. to the point where this is now like kind of my brand is like this arrow. I use it all the time. But isn't that cool though that you can kind of build your own brand in Express using returning to some of your favorite tools? I know you're the king of draw shape. That I know for certain.
Oh, I love draw shape. I could talk about that and for days and days. It highlights a good point too that I think with so many different elements, icons, and shapes to use, or even like design assets, try to have like a unified identity. I know we've spoken about that before, but
Hmm.
like if you're using like that arrow has very thin, almost hand-drawn looking lines. So if you're using other elements that are all of a sudden like chunky or blocky lines, it might not look like, Phil's brand or Phil's content. So I've found that it's nice to try to have like the same consistent even drawing or illustrative style in those icons so it looks and ties together well.
Mm. I just got an idea. I'm going to try the rewrite feature in Adobe Express to actually shorten this. Let's see if it'll work. Can we shorten favorite email marketing platform? Top best email tool. Oh my God, it worked.
There we
So I'm
go.
just going to replace that. And I'm doing some kind of like combination here. But I think to your point, don't overthink it. Like something like this is nowadays on social media, it doesn't need to be picture perfect. If anything, it looking a little more handwritten is almost more endearing than
I
having
agree.
something picture perfect.
Yep.
Like, don't let something like this hold you back from posting. And that is 100% the calling the, what is it? Calling the kettle black? The kettle calling what? How
The
does that go?
pot calling the kettle black. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word I was missing. Pot. The pot calling the kettle black. That's the situation. But I'm also we're working through this together. These little mental blocks, and we all get. Do you have any? Do you have any like mental blocks? You probably don't have them with Instagram, but you have them. I want you to post YouTube videos, and you're always like, no, 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 not today.
I actually have a YouTube project I'm very excited about that I have to maybe that's what we'll chat about next week because I do have an idea where I want to expand to YouTube. It'll be a different brand from what I've fully done on Instagram, but it is going to be me. It's going to be me behind the content. So I do have mental blocks on that, branching over to that longer type of content compared to a quick and dirty Instagram reel. That is what
Yeah.
I would say is the biggest thing is thinking I need a more perfect camera setup, right?
Uh-huh. It holds a lot of people up, but it's almost more important that you, well, not almost, it is more important that you sound good than looking pixel perfect. Um,
Yes.
Also, you can build your home setup, but it should be gradual. It should be one little tweak here and there. When people see a video that I create and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it looks amazing." Well, I've been building that for years and it's just like one thing at a time, you know, one small thing at a time. So that I think looks really good. And then
Very
if I,
nice.
and then if I want, I could go over to add-ons and you know where I'm going to go, social previewer.
This is
This
a big
for
one.
me, yeah, this is a big one. This one helps me visualize how things are going to look. Okay. So that's going to be no change. But let's say this was a reel. In this case, it's a thumbnail. But let's just work with me on this. Let's say it was a reel. Oh, right. It needs to be a video for that one. Let's go back to here. This helps you actually visualize like how it would look in the interface. And just seeing it in that environment might give you more ideas on little tweaks and changes that you might make. Just seeing it in that environment. We're looking specifically at Instagram, but if I hop back over to my YouTube video, so we use a mix of Express and then Premiere. We do the actual edits in Adobe Premiere Pro, but
Okay.
I prepare all of the graphics in Adobe Express because I do them. I do them. I don't edit, um, but I prepare them. And here I need to go to open. There we go. YouTube, same thing. Like, how cool is that? Let's say we're working on a YouTube thumbnail or even, graphics. It's just this particular one's designed for thumbnails. It's just that way you can just see, look,
Look at
will
that.
I
They even have like examples to mix it in
yeah,
there.
I know.
It
It's like,
looks like the sidebar of a YouTube, like what you would see
yeah,
next. And it's nice that they have the context of the platform you're using, right? On Instagram, it was all by itself as a feed. YouTube is always this sidebar on the right menu where you're competing with other videos to try to get the one that gets clicked, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that again, that would be more for thumbnails. I would say too, if you are making tool recommendations or working with brands, Brand Fetch will be your favorite add-on. I think it's my favorite add-on. So I pulled the Flowdesk one from my YouTube video, but I know for a fact that I pulled it from uh, Brand Fetch originally. So
Okay.
any logo that you might need that you reference in a piece of content, it could be an Instagram reel, could be anything, check it out. This Brand Fetch is a third-party add-on where they have all the popular logo brands. Let's look at like Nike. What's your favorite brand, Lucas?
Um, late I do like I just got New Balance shoes
Oh,
and
you're so cool.
I haven't picked them up yet. They're downstairs at the front desk in the box that they arrived in.
So
Look at
let's
that.
say
Oh, and
you're
they're all
wanting,
transparent background.
yeah. Now some smaller brands might not have the degree of options here.
That's fair. Yep.
Um, but the bigger the brand, the more likely you're going to see the brand that you're trying to create here or that you use or reference. It's not just in paid partnerships. You might be, I think about my friend Sammy Cohen, who talks about business news, like corporate updates on Reels and stuff. And so uh, I know she uses Brand Fetch all the time to just quickly pull the logos that you might need for whatever brand you reference or talk about. That's one of
Yeah, I
my
think
favorite.
anyone who hasn't played with the add-ons in Adobe Express, use that as your homework. Go try some, spend like 30 minutes. Look at the ones that just grab your attention. There's a lot of really good suggested ones that you can just try, and you'll be amazed at how you can really customize your experience. As we're seeing here with abilities to like pull in mockups, pull in logos,
Mhm.
see your content in different ways than just on a feed or just on the grid or just in Adobe Express. It's really good to remind you of why you're creating it and why you're designing it.
Any of the add-ons that you've used before that you've installed will appear here under your add-ons. But I also recommend coming over here to Discover. And it feels like, and if I actually go back to the home or to the dashboard for a second, this tends to be the best way to see at a glance what might be useful for you. Image compressor, this is so awesome. If you're using Express to create images for your website, it's really important that you compress them before you upload them. You might have fast internet, but keep in mind that not everyone in the world trying to access your content has fast internet. I'm in Mexico right now, and mine is certainly not as fast as when I'm home. But you want to think about that. How do I optimize my content so that it loads? There are, I think, hundreds of add-ons now. So hop over here. So I filtered here by social media. This is what I wanted to show you. We showed you Social Previewer. Spelling Checker is one of the newer ones. We've talked a lot about TikTok Symphony Assistant, which has that
Yep.
integration with music, approved music that you can use. I haven't used all of these, like the AI dubbing. I haven't used. Let's see. Yeah. Deep Real AI avatar type videos. And then some of these other ones, like Lucas, I know you use a lot of design elements in Express, icons, not just limited to the ones integrated through Adobe Stock, but you've got dedicated icon libraries. All of that is here. Creative guidance. Check this out. There's so
I
many
have one
good
on
things in
I
here.
have one to show on my screen. So
Oh,
if you
let's
pop
look.
over
Let's
there,
look.
I'll show you guys one that I think is like phenomenal to use. This one's gradients. I think this one is actually by Adobe. I'm not 100%
It
sure, but
is. I have never
yes.
used this one. I've never used this one, so I'm excited to see how you use
This
this.
one is just a game changer for my content in particular because when I create content, I like to make sure that's going to be yours. I often like to make sure it has like the Instagram gradient or the Instagram colors incorporated. So again, we're talking about the idea of your thumbnails and your perfect grid and your templates. People are going to look for certain colors. So again, right here in the middle, you'll see that I have, I'll move my mouse there so we can see. This is a post that is focused on like Instagram news. Instagram came out with a new feature that I wanted to highlight. It was the ability to fast forward reels. And this was actually a graphic that Instagram, they email me updates, which I'm very proud to say
Hmm.
and share. This was like the actual graphic they gave me, but it's super easy now for me to be able to create that kind of background or that kind of style for my own content with the gradients tool here. So again, you just find your starting color. If you want to be like super like on brand with what you're doing, you can very easily use like the color grabber to get the or the dropper, whatever the term I'm looking for is, to get
Yep.
the specific color code for what Instagram uses for their orange to pink. But very easily, I literally just changed the first color here to orange, which I know is part of the Instagram gradient. And right as I'm
Yeah.
doing it, it's creating the gradient I want. I can have more circular, which is nice, you know, coming from the middle and lessening as it goes outward. We have a cone, linear. I'm going to go with linear for now. It's funny how it was already pretty close to what the Instagram one is. So all I really had to do was change the orange. But I have this. I go ahead and do add to page, and it's right there for me to use in my content, which is very nice to use for story backgrounds. Very nice to probably to use as like a shape that I might use for my text boxes. And right there, it's in the content. So I like to use that one, especially because we're talking tutorials. We are talking about thumbnails. I can easily resize this to be a carousel post.
That's
Pop
genius. And I
that in there.
love now with the generative expand kicks into action, which by the way, it works so well on gradients. It works
Look at that.
amazingly on gradients. Yeah, absolutely perfect.
So just to
Um,
explain to anyone who hasn't, to what happened there was it used like generative fill, generative expand, I guess is what it is,
yeah.
to generate gradient sidebars to fill in the graphic that I didn't have.
It's so, so cool because you do not need to be a designer to be able to navigate some of these features. You say to me all the time, Phil, I learned something new in Adobe Express. And I'm going to tell you, I learned something new in Adobe Express from you today. I have never used this gradients feature. And I feel like you just revealed your biggest social media secret. Now we know how you make these Instagram inspired gradients for your content. Perfect for thumbnails. Look at how visible that is. So it's like Instagram adjacent, like reminiscent of their brand, but still it's your own style and brand, right?
Exactly, right? Like I use my own font here that I like. I have like the nice, like we said, the drop shadow, but like this is exciting me to practically make a new like carousel style, right? If I were trying to make a new template to go in here, I can all of a sudden use this nice gradient as the cover. I'm gonna go ahead and add in. I would probably for the next page, I would probably keep it more like cobalt gray or black, just so it's not gonna like entirely be gradient. That could be a lot on people's eyes. But I would have
Yeah,
this as my like starting slide and then give my info and then sandwich it and go back to the gradient for my call to action at the end. But this is what I
genius.
want people to think of, right? When they are trying to plan out what their grid could look like. Because I know you have an example that maybe would be good for us to kind of show as like a final reveal. You have an
Sure.
example of a very nicely planned out grid that people could probably find for themselves by incorporating the strategies we've shared. So we'll take a look. Let's see what you have on your screen.
Yeah, sure. So this was um kind of like what I would do for a client that I felt like I really needed for myself. Now, this is obviously still when Instagram was square, so it's probably time to update this, make it portrait. But again, I think the lesson that we've all learned today is that that shouldn't stop you in your tracks.
Right.
Um, which I kind of did let it stop me in my tracks. I have to apologize to our chat because this is so silly. I had two versions of the YouTube chat up instead of Behance and YouTube. And now Val and Bree and Aperva, I'm seeing all your messages from the hour that I you probably feel like I've been ignoring. Val was like, oh my gosh, Phil, I'm right there with you. No, not my timeline. Yeah, I felt that way when they switched from square to portrait. And I think Bree, you were sharing your three content verticals, photos, edits that you've done, reels of reels, photos, live. I love that this is getting you thinking. And also, Lucas, that we've never really had the chance on this show to go into more detail on add-ons, but it's always something that I've wanted to do. And add-ons are really a way that even pro users of Creative Cloud tools can use and leverage Express, not only for your own content, but also to set your clients up for success. So what you're looking at is actually a grid layout that we designed in Illustrator. My graphic designer that I work with on all of our client projects designed my brand as well. We design it together. And so this is kind of like my inspiration moving forward for what my feed will look like. I needed a little bit more flexibility, but I still need structure. So for
Yes.
me, structure means posting different types of content. And it means posting types of content I can create quickly without requiring these studio photos. You know, from today, I know that I don't need to let it like that realistically is going to get more engagement than this professional photo of me taken in a studio that I hired a photographer for.
No, you're right. You're
Literally,
right. That's a
like
good point to share.
that's the age and time. That's the moment we've arrived at in Instagram world, 2025 and beyond. We're kind of sick of picture perfect. We want personality. We want it to feel accessible. We want it to feel relatable. And I
And
think, Lucas, you're a
I know what you're
master
saying
at
is
that.
true because I have seen tons of ads now from brands or the brands that get it that look just like what we're seeing on screen, where they
Yeah.
will either be UGC or it'll be, you know, like a very relatable photo that looks like, well, is a selfie with added text, added elements. It's jazzed up a little bit. But I'm more likely to react to this as like an ad on the feed and click this or
Yes.
give this my attention than something that is super polished and super professional.
Yeah.
So that's something big to
And
highlight.
yeah, we've talked about the differences. Like, I'm sure actually next week I have ideas when we tackle your biggest content challenges. Building out, like extending from Instagram maybe to more platforms. Ooh, I love where this direction is going and using Adobe Express to do that. But like, you know, things are a little different when you jump from platform to platform. But we talk a lot about Instagram on the show, and I think celebrate the moment in time that we've arrived at where it's meant to be fun, it's meant to be human. We crave human in an age of AI, don't we? We
We
crave
do.
like spelling mistakes and funny little bloopers and those types of things. And so we hope that you'll, use this template that we've kind of built out today. Sections to avoid, top and bottom. The crop area is right in the middle, as you've seen us in action. Adjust the opacity on this puppy so you can see what is going to be visible on that profile. But I guess, and I'm projecting when I say this, don't let perfection paralyze you, particularly on your feed. Maybe Lucas, could you round off our discussion with your take on how much less important the feed aesthetic is than it once was?
Yes, and I what I got to add is that showing up is the most important part of being on social media. Someone can have amazing content, but if they're not regularly sharing and reminding people of who they are and why their account is worth following, they're not going to get the audience that sticks around. We've seen this again with Instagram in particular, but many social media platforms where if you're not staying relevant, you really drop off. That's why if people take like extended multi-month breaks of not sharing content, when they return, yeah, it's exciting. There will be like those diehard fans who are excited to see you, but most people aren't going to be seeing your content. And that can be
Yeah,
a really difficult hole to get out of. So even if you are just putting up a piece of content, like breaks are important. Even if you're taking a break and just putting up a
yeah.
piece of content a week, something to just have and just keep that feed active and alive is a must, is what I would say. In addition to if you are going to take a break, because you don't want to be forgotten and you don't want the algorithm to forget you, unfortunately.
You don't want to be forgotten. What a note to end on. That's such good advice. Thank you to Lucas for helping me work through my creative Instagram blocks today. Lucas will switch the script, flip the script. I'm getting all my analogies wrong today. And I'm going to help you next week in our final episode for now of Social Media Makeover. We'll talk about Instagram, but we'll also talk about content beyond just Instagram, the future and evolution of your content strategy. So we'll see you back here 1 week from today. Thank you, chat, for hanging out with us. Bree says, she goes, I love this show. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Bree. Thank you all. We'll chat with you. We'll see you soon.